I'm Dr. Stephen Melamis. Welcome to this video on relapse prevention. The key to relapse prevention is to understand that relapse happens gradually. It begins weeks and sometimes months before you pick up the first drink or drug. That gives you plenty of time to do something. When you don't understand relapse, you think it happens suddenly. 1 minute you're fine, the next minute you're using, and you don't even know how you got there. Relapse is a little like a stone rolling down a hill. It has to build momentum. The goals of this video are to help you understand the stages of relapse, recognize the early warning signs, and learn coping skills that will help you prevent relapse in the future. First, the stages of relapse. There are 3 stages to relapse. They are emotional, mental, and physical. Let's go through them in more detail. Emotional relapse. The key to emotional relapse is that you're not thinking about using. That's the furthest thing from your mind. You remember your last relapse and you don't want to go back there. But everything that you're doing, all your behaviors, all your emotions are setting you up for relapse down the road. Denial is a big part of emotional relapse because you're not thinking about using at this stage. That's why it's so important that you learn the early warning signs of relapse so that you can see if you're slipping. Here are some of the signs of emotional relapse: isolating, irritability, focusing on others, bottling up emotions, not asking for help, not going to meetings or not sharing, not taking care of yourself with poor eating and sleeping habits. What do all of these have in common? Poor self-care. That is the essence of emotional relapse. Relapse prevention isn't complicated. It's about the things you learned in kindergarten that most of us have forgotten. Get a good night's sleep, eat 3 meals a day, ask for help, and share your feelings. That's relapse prevention. If you live in emotional relapse for too long, after a while you'll start to feel uncomfortable in your own skin. And when that happens, you'll start to think about using just to escape. With that, you will suddenly move from emotional relapse to mental relapse. Mental relapse. In mental relapse, there's a war going on in your mind. Part of you wants to use, but part of you doesn't. Everyone has occasional thoughts of using. It doesn't mean you have to relapse, but it is a warning sign. In the beginning, your thoughts are brief and easy to handle. But if you continue to live in mental relapse for too long, the pull of your addiction gets stronger and stronger. Here are some of the signs of mental relapse: thinking about people, places, and things that were part of your using. Minimizing consequences of past relapses. Seeing old using friends. Bargaining. Lying. That's a big one. Lying to others, and eventually lying to yourself. Finally, you start to look for opportunities when you could use without getting caught. Next, relapse prevention strategies. Once you start to think about using, what can you do? Your addictive brain is telling you to use. It's telling you that this time will be different. But it's been wrong before. 1 drink or 1 drug use is hardly ever enough. Think of what you could lose if you relapse. Think of the hopelessness and despair that you felt before. Change your scenery. Go for a walk. Don't give your cravings room to grow. Tell yourself that you'll wait for 30 minutes. You'll discover that most cravings don't last very long. Tell someone that you're thinking about using. Go to a meeting. Everyone has had those thoughts before. They will understand. When you talk about your cravings, they're easier to handle. When you start to think about using, challenge your thinking. Think your relapse through. Distract yourself. Talk about your feelings. And do your recovery 1 day at a time. Finally, physical relapse. Once you start to think about using, if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't ask for help, if you don't talk about your cravings, your thoughts will get stronger and louder until eventually your addiction is screaming inside your head. You can go from mental relapse to physical relapse in the blink of an eye. It can happen so fast, you won't even know how you got there. Here's the main point. When you don't understand relapse, you think that relapse prevention means saying no just before you pick up a drink or drug. But that's focusing on the final stage, the most difficult stage. That's why you relapse. Here's a summary of relapse prevention. Relapse happens gradually. Look for the early warning signs. Practice self-care. Ask for help. And always remember, you are not alone. Until next time, I'm Dr. Stephen Melamis, wishing you a healthy and happy recovery.